There will be spoilers for any Zelda, Hyrule Warriors, or any game, cartoon, lunchbox, Rubik's Cube, anything related to the Legend of Zelda franchise in this video. You've been warned. There comes a point in every gamer's life when it's time to hang up the NES blaster. A time to reminisce on better days gone by in contrast to the realization that perhaps you've outgrown, or have even been passed up by something that was such a big part of your life for so long. You submit to the overwhelming, hopeless, and equally sad feeling that has consumed what you used to call joy. The days go dark as the fine point of optimism has now dulled into an almost useless nub of steel that sees itself being pushed harder and forced through its intended target rather than seamlessly piercing its goal with almost no effort by the user. We usually see it coming, yet with our heads down, we hold on to an almost unwarranted hope that things may get better someday. But deep down, we know we're only being dishonest with ourselves. Of course, most of us will end up accepting the truth at different points in time, leaving this once special something to reveal what are now its true colors to the popular consensus. In modern times, I could name a few special somethings to me that fit the description previously stated, but when it comes to The Legend of Zelda and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, this special something is still proving to shine bright and light years ahead of most. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the sole proprietor to the worst channel on YouTube and commander to the legion of deafheads, the world's wokest warrior, primitive-sided, toxic fanboy, aligned with the like-minded, Tony Tone Deaf rockin' with you. I want to welcome one and all to the Clown World Review. We are underdogging that algorithm with obscenities and toxicities, but we can't do it without the wonderful deafheads like yourself. Help us expand our platform by taxing that privilege button and spread the propaganda by sharing this video. I didn't want to do this next part, I just want to get to the actual review, but unfortunately, as part of every YouTuber's contract, I'm forced to give the world at least one false ending per fiscal year, and if you don't know, October 1st is come and gone, so please bear with me. The Age of Calamity is a great game, and will be my first major video game review. There is so much to talk about, and so many thoughts swimming through my mind that I really don't know where to start. So goodbye everyone. Ba-dum-dum-dum. I am pressing Y for shame, but it soothes nothing. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity was released to consumers on November 20th of 2020 and has already made a major impact on the Legend of Zelda series, which is interesting as the Age of Calamity is a third-party game. History has shown that this isn't the first time that Nintendo has entrusted one of their bejeweled franchises to other developers and publishers, and the remake of Link's Awakening or The Cadence of Hyrule are two out of several Zelda games that Nintendo has outsourced or approved through the years. And yes, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is exactly that, a third-party Warriors game. This is not a main Legend of Zelda game, but it has left its fingerprints all over the series, and will have major repercussions on all games going forward, both technically and creatively, which I will delve into deeper later on in the video. Omega Force developed The Age of Calamity and was published locally in Japan by Koei Tecmo, with Nintendo taking the international publishing rights. The developers worked closely with Nintendo to bring the story to the forefront of this era of the Wild game, which is quite the departure from Breath of the Wild's open-world style of storytelling. And with aside from a few options like which order to initially recruit the champions and later on save them, Age of Calamity is a linear game dependent on a timeline of events unfolding in a predetermined order. This allows for the story to be told chronologically and with more frequent cutscenes to update the player on the status of the environment in which they are immersed. Now, if you ask my preference, my main concern is well-written, solid storytelling. Both Age of Calamity and Breath of the Wild managed to achieve this, so linear versus open-world storytelling isn't really a debate in my perspective, at least not as of yet. Just tell me a damn good story, and whichever way it's best delivered to the player, and I will appreciate it. In my review of the Age of Calamity demo, we went over the game being in the midst of the Great Calamity. Tarako, the diminutive garden, activates from a wooden crate on Princess Zelda's bookcase, and after witnessing the destruction that was taking place, it opens a time portal to the past and is forced through by a malice-possessed guardian. This brings the game into an alternate timeline, where Tarako is able to warn the royal family and Hylians of the dark events which hang on the precipice of the day. It is now up to our heroes to recruit the champions that pilot the divine beasts, research and understand the ancient Sheikah technology in which the Hylians inherited to rebut the scourge of Calamity Ganon. They need to find the sword that seals evil's bane, hidden within the lost woods of Korok Forest, find the steps necessary to unlock Princess Zelda's sealing power that was inherited through the bloodline of the goddess Hylia, and to defeat the Calamity when it inevitably rises. In hindsight, I had reservations about this game after playing the demo. It was mainly the alternate timeline that wasn't sitting right with me, and there still is a part of me that wants to see the actual events of the Great Calamity unfold in the timeline which Breath of the Wild takes place. Still, taking a step backwards before proceeding to Breath of the Wild's sequel was the right move and allowed Zelda fans to gain some perspective and insight on the hows and whys of this trilogy taking place at all. If you would have asked me a month ago, without any doubt I would explain that 10,000 years prior to the Age of Calamity, Hyrule experienced Ganon in his Calamity form for the first time. After Ganon was sealed away and the kingdom was saved, the Sheikah technology used, including different types of guardians and 4 divine beasts, were handed down from generation to generation with the caution of the Great Calamity's potential return. This is all true. Where I would have been mistaken was thinking that the Great Calamity, which occurred 100 years prior to Breath of the Wild, was organic. What I mean is that I thought the Calamity Ganon had built up enough power to break the seal on his own, and what I didn't realize was that there were bad actors playing puppet master behind the events that were unfolding upon Hyrule. Regardless of where and when the timeline fractured in Age of Calamity, it is now obvious that Aster was manipulating and setting up the situation for Ganon's return. We were introduced to the YIGA clan in 2017, and I thought they were a great implementation for the game and a great idea overall. You see, the Sheikah are a tribe of technologically advanced warriors and protectors who've sworn allegiance to the royal Hylian family. The YIGA, on the other hand, are a sect of Sheikah who swore their allegiance to the Dark Lord Ganon after refusing to disavow the very technology that turned on the kingdom of Hyrule. I bring up the YIGA clan because not only did Aster use their ignorance to ultimately achieve his goal, but when comparing the two, Aster is the real deal and makes the YIGA clan look like nothing more than LARPers. Not that the YIGA haven't personally helped with the public's perception of them. What is interesting about Aster is that he was putting the pieces for Ganon's return into place well before Tarako's split in the timeline, meaning much of what he accomplished in Age of Calamity's timeline he also achieved in Breath of the Wild's timeline. So, where is he? Or what happened to him? Will he have any influence on the upcoming sequel? Who is Aster? Where did he get the small amount of power that he does wield? And why was he so obsessed with Ganon? Moreover, what are we to think about the successors to the champions? We met Sidon, Riju, Tiba, and Yunobo 100 years after the Great Calamity when Link awoke in the Shrine of Resurrection and set out to free the Divine Beasts, along with the champions' souls, who were cursed to remain prisoners inside of said beasts. In Age of Calamity, Tarako saves the champions at the point in which they would have died in Breath of the Wild by bringing the same successors who helped Link reach the Divine Beasts back in time 100 years to the Age of Calamity timeline to help stave off the elemental blights of Ganon until Link and company could arrive to help the champions and their successors conquer these formidable opponents. But at the end of the game, the same successors who helped Link in Breath of the Wild are then sent back to the timeline with the knowledge of this alternate timeline existing, where they were able to prevent the Great Calamity from murdering the champions in Link, as well as infesting Hyrule for a century. How could Age of Calamity possibly play into the sequel? Nintendo isn't dumb, and I know there's a reason why they decided to place this game in between the two main titles. The Age of Calamity answered some questions we may have asked ourselves after Breath of the Wild, but it also left us with questions we were hoping to see answered in the future. That, in my opinion, is a sign of a good story. The cutscenes and story in Age of Calamity were featured far more prominently than I can recall in any other Zelda game that I've played. Fans were also treated to the first voice-acted cutscenes from villains in the Zelda universe, and they did not disappoint. Along with the amount of story content, the quality of the story remained consistently high throughout the game, even if I have some questions about continuity in certain areas. But most of those issues were addressed in the demo review. It's nothing to turn me off from the game, or even take from the experience, at least in my initial feelings towards the game, but there are a few lingering questions about the past that could be cleared up. Minor details that may have been moved around, or maybe I'm delusional. Nope, it's everyone else that's wrong. If you were to ask my favorite scene or visual from the Age of Calamity, aesthetically, it would easily be the callback to Twilight Princess at the beginning of the Calamity Strikes mission. The Twilight Princess was far from my favorite Legend of Zelda game, but the scene was visually rendered in such a beautiful fashion that sticks out in my mind when I recollect on the experience of playing that particular title. The scene spoke to me as a metaphor for the Calamity, as the dark and cold of night were only moments away. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity came as a surprise to fans, being revealed on September 8th of 2020, only to be released 73 days later on November 20th. I pre-ordered the game looking forward to the story that was to come, but I hadn't played a Hyrule Warriors or any Warriors game until the demo. My main concern was the game becoming repetitive, but with 18 playable characters, all with unique actions, fighting styles, and special abilities. Not to mention making individual use of the Sheikah Slate runes and elemental wands, the game finds more than enough ways to keep the player entertained enough to keep playing, even past the point where the story ends. There is so much content, including training sessions, trials, different types of missions, upgrades, and things to do that I wouldn't have the creative capacity to think of. Seriously, I'll probably be playing it for the next few weeks after making the review, and I'm already rushing to get this content out to you. I want to praise Nintendo for this, but I don't think they deserve the credit. Again, Nintendo did not develop this game, they only worked closely with the developers on the story. I mean, can I really give them credit? The last time I bought a first-party title from them, let's just say I put in more effort obtaining Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which was close to little effort, and yet it was still light years beyond the amount of effort that Nintendo put into creating Super Mario 3D All-Stars. It's It's not fun playing a 480p game on a 4K TV. Fortunately, and I'm not that privy to the technical aspects of creating a game, so I will give both Omega Force and Koei Tecmo credit that they ensured the product they were creating was not only up to par, but Age of Calamity actually sets the bar in vital key areas in the Legend of Zelda game going forward. An example of this is the princess herself. In my 33 years of playing The Legend of Zelda, I don't think we've ever spent as much time or gotten to know her the way we did in Age of Calamity. And that goes for many of the side characters. It makes Hyrule feel bigger and more alive knowing that the sole focus isn't always on Link and that he can actually have some competition. And the princess could have a little competition herself.
Thank you.
Come on.
I've been so lonely.
Speaking of acquainting ourselves with other personalities, pick any game, time, or genre. Street Fighter, Mario Kart, Mortal Kombat, Super Mario 2, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, WWF No Mercy, Resident Evil, Friday the 13th on the NES, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the arcade game, and the list goes on. What do all of these games and so many more have in common with one another? There is no single protagonist in these games. You're given the option as to whom you'd like to play as, which is great, but where the issue comes in, at least for me, is that I settle into somewhat of a character comfort zone. A repetitive pattern where I find myself choosing the same few characters after so long. Tony Hawk, Jeff Rowley. Resident Evil, Jill or Leon. Super Mario 2, Princess Toadstool with a dash of Luigi. WWF No Mercy, a 500-pound pink clown with X-Pac Bronco Buster as a finisher, because I was doing diverse back when our current arbiters of morality were live-action role-playing as a pincushion while listening to My Chemical Romance. Mortal Kombat did a decent job of intriguing me to play as more than 2 or 3 characters, and so did the Age of Calamity, which came as a bit of a prolonged surprise for me after playing the demo. We were only given the options of Link, Zelda, and Impa to play in the demo, and I was a little worried that Link was going to be outshined in the game. I found myself leaning on Impa more and more because she's flat out a badass in this game. Let me pre-qualify this by saying that in our current entertainment climate, it's easy to come across lazily written, overpowered protagonists that are not in touch with big percentages of the fandom in which they dwell. These thoughts were in the back of my mind when I was shredding through enemies and levels with Impa during the demo, and even towards the beginning of the full game. Again, I hadn't played a Warriors game, and in contrast between Link and Impa, Link seemed like he was lacking a little bit. I mean, Shang Tsung over here can absorb the souls of monsters and turncoats to the point where you have 6 or 7 Impas pushing back on these massive hordes of enemies while her special attack gauge fills before you realize you have the move available at your disposal. And in Impa's defense, this is what the Sheikah do. They're warriors, and her fighting style isn't that different from what we've seen from other Sheikah tribe and Yiga clan warriors in the era of the Wild. Plus, what I didn't take into account while playing the demo is how much of these characters are built up throughout time, and that gives the story and the game substance. It makes sense that Link was kind of mediocre at first compared to a Sheikah warrior who had been training her entire life. But once we move past the demo territory and into the game, and Link starts getting better with combos and pulls the Master Sword, he quickly became neck and neck with Impa for what are probably my 2 favorite characters in Age of Calamity as of this video. But many of the characters are right up there, and I have found purpose in using the majority of them. Another feature of the game that sticks out to me is the upgrade system for the weapons. Breath of the Wild could have used a more expansive version of the great upgrade system that was used in Age of Calamity. This system allows the player to combine different weapons they've acquired in battle into one or several main weapons for the player to use. When combining the acquired weapons with your main weapon, it not only increases the amount of damage done to your opponent, but the system also allows you to apply and combine different buffs to your weapon, which are referred to as seals. I did miss the elemental weapons in Age of Calamity, such as the Great Thunderblade and different flame and ice-infused gear. I understand understand why it wasn't part of the game due to the role of the elemental wands and needing to limit the player so we aren't too OP in a game where we're already playing one of the most powerful versions of Link that I've seen. Still, a great Thunder Master Sword would have been a lot of fun to swing around, don't you think? They even offer a system to upgrade the characters to the highest level character in your stable, so even if you don't want to rotate between characters, if you enjoy using Revali instead of Hestu, you can just pay some coin to have the characters you don't play as leveled up for essential missions. Isn't that what makes everything great? Options. This game also allows the player to spam attack in some areas, and in others it forces the player to fight strategically, or under pressure with a time limit or with allies being attacked. I figured this game would be a lot of blind swinging, but it actually requires a bit of method inside all the madness going on around you. I wasn't physically defeated in this game very often, but the majority of the time I would have to restart a scenario was due to my lack of planning or paying attention to the goals. It's real easy in this game to get wrapped up in just everything, all the action going on around you. So we've gone through the story, we've gone through some of the gameplay mechanics. I just want to go through a couple of the characters, name some of their pros, some of their cons, just to give you an idea of what kind of deck we're dealing with here. First off, there's Link, Old Faithful himself, and I grew up living vicariously through Link, through the annals of time and space, past rough waters and the seasons, far-off lands, and the glowing embers of twilight. There was always the hero in the green tunic. Link's progression through this game was noted earlier. The developers deserve credit for translating the experience of Link from Hylian Knight seizing his destiny to become the champion and hero of Hyrule. To me, Link is the most palatable character to use. He's familiar, and we know his moveset, and the game feels natural when using it. Where Link went through a natural progression, the princess fought about how you would expect a princess to fight in most of the game. And then she unlocks her sealing power and is suddenly taking out the Ganon Blights and other monsters with a potent offense. There are certain missions where it's required to play as Zelda before her powers awaken, and it feels like a chore. She uses the Sheikah Slate as offense and it just feels awkward to play as her, and then after her powers become available to the player, she's still a bit awkward to play as, but now she's so powerful that it compensates slightly for her weird combos and slow movement. I was afforded the opportunity to extend my feelings toward Impa voice actress Andy Gibson while she was doing an interview on another YouTube channel. I'm gonna tell all of you the same thing that I told her.
I think that would be epic.
Thank you for portraying the best iteration of Impa I've seen since 1987. You're my favorite character of Age of Calamity by far.
Oh, thank you, Clown World! I really appreciate it. Very nice. Thank you.
You're very welcome, beautiful. And I meant every word of it, too. So what do you know about that Breath of the Wild sequel? Allow me to be blunt. Revali needs the Shroud of Mystery to remain cool.
I never thought the champion would be so...
Hold that thought for now.
Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity left the Rito champion a bit exposed. Though I wouldn't say any permanent damage was done to his character. This doesn't mean I didn't enjoy Revali throughout the game, but too much exposure leaves him looking petty, and like his bark is sharper than his bite. I think this says something towards Breath of the Wild's more conservative style of storytelling. In 2017, I was left wanting more of Revali, but in 2020, I think I've had my fill for now. While playing as the character, I enjoyed Revali while in the air, but his ground game is a bit jarring, and I don't like to use the bird when engaging in boss battles. He's just not very efficient when it comes to one-on-one situations, but if you need to jump in the air, use his bows and arrows to take out a few hordes, that's where I find him most efficient. When you're going one-on-one with someone, I don't know, it's just Revali, he's a little awkward. And I think it's best in the next game, if he makes an appearance, let's use him more conservatively. Let's only use him when we need to, because again, in Revali's case, less is more. I don't eat fish or seafood, but if I did, Mipha would be my boo. The Princess of the Zora boasts in heart what the Princess of Hyrule boasts in wisdom and mind. She is a princess in love, which only makes her more powerful and determined. Mipha trains with fellow champion Daruk throughout the age of Calamity, and to the player, at least this player, Mipha is right on the verge of becoming a great character to play as. She's fast, she has good combos, and I think it's just comparing her to the other characters, such as Link and Impa, that knocks the Zora Princess down a notch. The Goron champion is a beast, and I like to compare him to the Undertaker. I love to see Daruk in action, but when it comes to playing the character in video games, he's just a bit mediocre. I enjoy swift-moving, agile characters in video games over slow and powerful. I like the character of Daruk, and I love the idea of the Gorons dating back to 1998, but I wish playing Daruk would have felt more like playing Darmani in Majora's Mask, and I get they're two different types of games, but I think that would have made for a more enjoyable experience. The leader of the Gerudo people and friend to the late Queen of Hyrule, Urbosa has extended the same friendship, love, and advice to Princess Zelda as she did the Queen. One of my favorite champions to play as, Urbosa harnesses the power of the Scimitar of Seven and the power of electricity to defend her home and kingdom from invading forces. Where some of the champions are more lovers than fighters, narcissistic, or pretty good leaders, Urbosa comes off as the experienced, grizzled warrior whose leadership skills were naturally earned and tempered through experience in battle. She helps give the protagonist logical clarity and directions when emotions run high, which is an invaluable asset to the psychology of the team. So that covers the main protagonists and champions of the game. Let's talk about the worst character of the game, and if you've played this game, then you know who it is. Have you ever had a dream where you were trying to run, or that you were in a fist fight, but your punches were being held back like you were underwater? Who thought that would be a good idea for a playable character? Seriously, thank you Nintendo for helping us all realize dreams that we didn't want to live. WTF, bro, somebody should be fired for this. I don't know if the Great Fairies were available to play in the original Hyrule Warriors, but if we're not going to learn from our mistakes, then what's the point of going on living as a society? And then I guess a data mine shows that we could have played as Astor or Suga, but instead they gave us this crap fairy. Why? Is this our golden poo of the video game? And let's talk about this post-game. I'd rather sit on a cactus than play this stupid post-game anymore. It's like the game went from 0 to 60 and then the post-game goes from 60 to 0. I'm towards the end here, and keep in mind that I do work a full-time job, but 3 days in a row now, 3 days! I came home, more or less ate dinner while playing. I still haven't beaten it. I still haven't unlocked Ganon. I still haven't unlocked Turako because I'd have to build up a bunch of other characters to top levels that I don't care about. F word, bro, the F word. The F word! And another thing, this Turako, BB-8, Grogu, Baby Groot trend, it's over the hill. True beauty will last forever, but cuteness gets annoying. And it gets annoying very quickly when you're just a simple human and you're trying to stop what's practically Satan's incarnate from murdering you and all your friends and family. You know, don't get me wrong, Nintendo's done a great job of keeping The Legend of Zelda distance from today's stupid political climate, and I should count my blessings. But it does seem like many popular franchises as of late are using baby cuteness as a safety net to move units. It's almost as if they used an algorithm that taught them that audiences would eat the stuff up, but what do I know? Overall, I would suggest this game to all Zelda fans, and who knows, with a great story it could possibly attract new fans who may have seen the Legend of Zelda games around but don't really know much about them or where to begin. I think the story would be enough to drive an individual to dive deeper into the lore and to play through the games of the past to get a better understanding of the bigger picture in the world of The Legend of Zelda. Well, I'm gonna get back to some animated and movie reviews, everyone. I am sure to make some videos regarding Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity here in the near future, as well as discussing any news or developments in regard to the Breath of the Wild sequel. I can't wait for that game, and I'm hopeful for a 2021 release, but the realist in me says 2022 at the earliest. But I truly hope it's coming this year, truly. I think what'll probably happen in 2021 is we're going to celebrate Zelda's 35th anniversary, much how they did with Super Mario Brothers this year, and we'll probably get, a collection of games. Hopefully they upscale the graphics on those, unlike Mario, but it'd be nice to have maybe Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask or even Skyward Sword available on the Switch, as well as, I still have my Wii U, I have Twilight Princess HD, Wind Waker HD, but to have everything on one system and portable, that would be nice. I usually don't like them re-releasing games at full price, that kind of thing, but if they want to charge full price for some kind of Zelda collection on the Switch, I'd be okay with that. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching my review, this Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Again, it was delayed a little bit because of that stupid post-game. And again, I'm still not done, but like, how long am I going to put this off? I'm not one of the bigger channels, so I get this game when you do. And I just want to make sure to get a good, decent and honest review out to you in some kind of timely manner here. So again, guys, I really, really appreciate you tuning in. I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever your holiday is. I just hope it's a beautiful one and you spend it with your family. I'll see everyone soon.